3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to this special edition of Trees 3. Folks, I'm Connor Roundtree, and on this week's edition of Trees 3, we're presenting you with our playoff preview show. We have a guest host, Katie Caldwell, who will be joining us to break down the NHL divisional rounds of the playoffs. But before we get to that, we have to get into our bump and stump of the week, and we're going to get this all started with our bump of the week. Our bump of the week has to go to Dylan SIKURA. The Las Vegas Golden Knights forward capitalized on his opportunity when he grabbed the puck in the slot, ripping one short side for his first goal as a Las Vegas Golden Knight. Later in the frame, SIKURA scored his second goal for his first multi-goal game of his career, putting it on the top shelf right where the kids can't get it. Congratulations, Dill. We can't wait to have you back on the show. You get our bump of the week. Our stump of the week has to go to Doug Ford, and if you live in Ontario, you know why. Well, communities across the province are encouraging outdoor activities that are socially distanced and safe. This donut with legs won't let us golf. There's 400 yards between each hole. How much more distance do you want us to get, man? Golf is being played all over North America. As we speak, people are getting vaccinated. It is a healthy way to relieve some stress. It's been a tough year, Doug. Stop being such a stump and let the kids play.
Coming in at number 3 this week on Trees 3 is the NHL. All the playoffs get started this Saturday, and we are joined by Katie Caldwell today, and we are extremely lucky to have her. Katie is a freelance sports broadcaster out of Kimberley, British Columbia. She has experience both on air and behind the scenes at outlets including TSN, Sportsnet 650, the NHL Network on SiriusXM, Puck Talk Live, and the Nashville Predators. She's recently ventured into public speaking with a focus on advocacy for mental health and empowering women. Katie, welcome to the show.
What an absolute pleasure to be here. I couldn't be more excited.
Well, obviously, NHL playoffs are starting off. You're out west, so we're going to get things started out on the west coast, just where you are, but a tad south with the Honda West Division. Now, Katie, by no means am I counting out Minnesota or St. Louis here, but I had the Avalanche being my Stanley Cup champions in the preseason. I love their balance of goal scoring, tenacity, their play in the corners, and I thought Grubauer could really take that step forward and be an A1 goalie. He has been. He's had the third best goals against average in the league. He sits second in shutouts. But the real strength of the team is their ability to score, and they lead the division in scoring. Now I look at the Golden Knights and I see Marc-Andre Fleury and what he's done this year. I know what Robin Leonard can do. A true 1A, 1B combo. Defense that can score. Forwards that kill penalties. They have the fewest goals against in the division. Defense wins championships. I don't see how this isn't coming down to the Golden Knights versus the Avalanche in the final two out west.
Well, Connor, I remind you that it is the NHL playoffs, and you can throw out all the paper that we keep referring to, that on paper, this team's going to win it. Throw that all out the window, because I agree with you. I think the Knights and the Avs are obviously just both so well-rounded, so outstanding. Like, you brought up the Avs. They're so deep. Like, they can beat you in so many different ways. Nathan MacKinnon, like, their top line is insane. Their defense is wild, and Grubauer looks ready for the playoffs. The Knights, obviously we've seen it. You brought up the 1-2 punch in net. 2 of the best D-men in the league, and Mark Stone's lighting it up. Like, they casually add Peyton Krebs, who I've seen a lot of since he played with Kootenay Ice. So he's just casually lighting it up there too, not on the score sheet, but if you watch him, what an outstanding player. But the Wild, to me, could be a bit of a dark horse. Wow. They're the one that they have been making of an upset because no one's talking about them. But they've got a good blue line, they've got sturdy goaltending, and they've got a lot of grit. There's been a lot of times this season they've been way down, they come back in the game to get at least a loser point, and yeah, Robin Leonard was actually talking about playing them and how challenging it is to play them, and he said he's surprisingly nervous, and him and Flower have talked about this. Nervous about playing the Wild. It's the Wild are one, I bet they could come out and just be a bit of a surprise.
Out west, yeah, you can't really count out the Wild. I mean, they put up 35 wins. And not to, like, they made that third place. It was really the battle for fourth place, which was more intriguing between the Blues, Coyotes, and Kings and Sharks. Obviously, Erik Karlsson's comments for the year saying that he wants to go there to win, and things aren't working out. But I'm still going to ride with the Vegas Golden Knights. One of my good buddies, known him since grade 9, scored 2 goals his first multi-goal game last night. A little depth scoring doesn't help. Dylan SIKURA, congratulations, buddy. Our bump of the week this week on Trees 3. So I'm hoping that Dylan wins the Stanley Cup, gets a little playoff time, hopefully have the Stanley Cup here in studio. So Although I did think Colorado at the start of the season on paper, as you said, throughout the paper, I thought they were the best looking squad going into the season. But I do think I'm going to have to take the Golden Knights coming out of the West. Are you riding with the Wild?
No, I won't ride. And as a makings of an upset, I wouldn't be surprised, but I have to go with the Avs. The Avs are coming out of that division. For me, it's time. It's their year for me.
I like it a lot. Now, Katie, moving over to the Central Division, this is a very interesting division because these teams are usually never in the same division, and they've all jumbled them together. Now, for me, I think a dark horse coming out of this division, I like Florida. I like their coach. I think Quenneville is a great coach. He's obviously won the Cup before. He's been around winning cultures, and he's brought a great culture in there. And how about their captain? Barkov has to be one of the most underrated players in the league. And then they have Sergei Bobrovsky back there. A former Vezina winner. The guy can stand on his head in the big moments. I think that the Florida Panthers might have the key ingredient to take down that team in Tampa Bay that really has been the powerhouse in the East over the last couple of years. How do you see that series playing out, Katie?
Oh, I hope it goes till 7. How fun is that series going to be? It seems so crazy that that's a first-round matchup to me because we've never seen the Battle of Florida. That's never been a thing, but I've never been more excited for it. Like, the Panthers, I'm so hyped on them. Last year, their defense was a big problem. They were scoring away last year, and this year their defense is in the top 10. So we thought their offense would dip. They lost Stadnov, they lose Hoffman, but then you bring in key pieces, and then someone like Sam Bennett, who casually just had 1 point a game since then. So, man, are they playing at a different level? They've got it all. They've got 4 lines, goaltending, coaching. Quenneville is just doing an amazing job there. I am so excited to see the Panthers. Before we step away from that one, though, you're getting Kucherov back and you're getting Stamkos back, and I understand that with a lot of players, you look at it and you go, you don't know how healthy they are, and especially after injuries like this, these players are different.
Yeah.
These are players that they can hit the ground running, they have the experience, they have all of it, so they could be one. And nobody's talking about Tampa winning, that I've heard anyways, Tampa winning the Cup. I've heard a lot of Abs, a lot of Knights, a lot of Bruins, but you hear them. I'm not hearing a lot of Lightning in there, and I think they might love that.
I think they might like it too, especially, as you said, to your point, Steven Stamkos, we saw what he did in his return in the Stanley Cup final. So I think that is an excellent point, but again, I gotta ride with Coach Q, that tight defensive play that Florida does, so I am gonna take the Panthers. Now, the other matchup, Carolina versus the Nashville Predators. I mean, you must have a little bit of a Nashville connection going on there. How do you see that series going down? Because I think the Predators, the way they made that push into the postseason, I think they're a very dangerous team to play against right now.
I've been saying that, and nobody's been listening to me. It's not about how hot you are, it's when you get hot.
Well, they're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They're not losing games in regulation. They're taking them long. They're tight games. Carolina, they got a lot of speed. They got their hands full. But I'm not sold on the net. I'm not sold on the goaltending in Carolina just yet. And, guys like Philip Forsberg, they're going to pick corners. They've done the playoff run before. Nashville's been there. So I really think that could be another little upset there, especially with how hot the Nashville Predators are playing right now. Not to take anything away from the Carolina Hurricanes at all. But again, the Nashville Predators, as you say, Katie, they got hot at the right time.
Connor, baby, I've been telling them. I've been telling all the people. Yes, and I want to give some love to the Hurricanes. They have it all. Scoring, they have strong defenders. They have Rob Bod in the coaching. They have veteran leadership. They're a heavy possession team. Like, you won't be able to make a lot of mistakes against them. The Preds need to find a way to score, which 5-on-5, I think they will be able to. Special teams is where I worry about them. Carolina has crushed them in numbers, both in power play and penalty kill. And like you said, if Carolina gets goaltending, watch out. But I'm watching how UC Saros has been playing, and then Pecorine, having him as the backup, a Vezina Trophy winning goalie. Nashville still got it going on down there. There's a vibe. They're feeling it. And I would be nervous about them. In moments like this, I forever will go back to the Tampa Bay Lightning series with the best team in NHL history, the regular season team in the salary cap era, and then they not only lose the Columbus Blue Jackets, they get swept. If you get hot and if you're fighting to get in, you're rolling. And this is a series where I think a lot of people are just punching Carolina right to that next round. I'm not so sold.
No, I think on the Sports Tree Bracket Challenge, I think I'm going to end up riding with the Predators. As you said, I'd like the hot divisional hockey. Now, it's talking about hot teams moving over to the East. How about those Pittsburgh Penguins? Holy. When the division, when it came down to the line, they started to win hockey games. They've won 3 in a row, 8-2 in their last 10. They have a tough matchup against the Islanders. They have a really tough matchup against the Islanders. The way Varlamov's been playing, I had to play Varlamov in fantasy a couple of weeks ago, got eliminated from the postseason, just like that. Semyon Varlamov murdered me. And that is something that cannot be overlooked, especially when you're going against a streaky postseason team like the Penguins. We saw them put up umpteen goals against the Flyers that one year, and we've seen them get bounced out by Montreal by not being able to score. So for as well as the Penguins are playing right now, I think there's a lot of question marks there, especially going up against a gritty, well-coached hockey team in Long Island.
The Isles, they're such an interesting team because they can win just on defense. Their offense has to be just good enough, which is really unique.
Extremely well said. Extremely. Anders Lee, get him in front of the net, get him tipping. Extremely well said.
Well, and that's so opposite from so much of the offensive firepower that we've seen in the NHL this year, especially in the North Division. So they can win it on defense. They have such a boring style. They're boring to watch. I think it'll be a good series.
It's going to be a lot reminiscent of those 03-04 Devils, where they take a lot of time with the puck, take the possession of the puck, and make smart plays, smart breakouts, and if they get the goaltending, they can make some noise. Now, I think just with the Penguins' firepower, I think I am leaning towards the Penguins, but I'm not sleeping on the New York Islanders one little bit. I mean, out of the playoff teams in that division, they gave up the fewest goals, as you said. And they scored the fewest. So they know how to get into those gritty hockey games and win them.
So their defense has been looking good. Their defense is the best we've seen on a Pens team in how many years? Not a lot of people are talking about that. So if your goal is to be scoring up against this Penguins team that's got Sidney Crosby, Gino Malkin, all this firepower and a complete team, depth, power play clicking, you need to be able to score against that, and their defense is looking good.
Yeah, well, Chris Letang has been lighting it up this season as quarterbacking that power play, to your point. So they are going to be dangerous. But what about that other series? Big Z taking on his old squad. This is going to be rough and tumble. I want to see Brad Marchand and Tom Wilson. I want to see some hits. I want to see some checks. I think this is the series. Outside of the Maple Leafs Montreal series, just because they're an original 6 teams, this is the playoff series I'm most excited to watch, and I have it going either way. I think that the Boston Bruins have the keys to do it. I think that Tuukka Rask, had a great year, and then their backup goaltender, guy's number 1 in goals against average in the league. So you got two strong goaltenders. You've got some depth scoring. Yes, the Bruins are a little older. Krejci and Bergeron, they're getting up there in age. They can move the puck well, and they are gritty to score goals. And then you're going up against probably the biggest... How do we mention the Capitals right now without bringing up Tom Wilson? I mean...
You don't. You can't.
But the Capitals aren't going to go away. The Capitals and the Bruins were 4-4 this year. Like, they played each other 4-4. I think the Bruins actually lost 2 of the games in overtime, so the Bruins were 4-2-2, and the Capitals were 4-4. Like, what more do you want out of a hard-nosed playoff series than that?
There's going to be goal scoring. There's going to be checking. It's going to be physical. It's going to be electric. I think it's going to come down to goaltending because there's just so much star power on either team. But just like the Bruins, you said it all. Adding Taylor Hall, he's just been absolutely out of his mind. TJ Oshie on the other side, he's playing out of his mind. And of course, he's someone that as much as people that aren't fans of the Caps are looking at them going, oh, Tom Wilson, we don't love that. How do you not cheer for TJ Oshie?
Well, exactly. It's to that point, too. It's unfortunate that Tom Wilson's antics overlooked what Oshie was able to do when his father passed away, going out and scoring a hat trick. But Tom Wilson was the big story breaking when that happened. But yeah, TJ Oshie playing emotional hockey, playing strong, playing well, that's a scary thought for any team that the Capitals have to go against. But again, I think I'm going to lean with the Bruins in that one simply because you said it, goaltending. Tuukka Rask can steal a series. He is that good, and he has the ability.
Yeah, I have the Bruins too simply because of that, but I could see it going either way. I just think it's going to be totally wild and insane, and I'm so here for it.
Well, Katie, we're moving up north now. Uh-oh. Here we go. Oilers and Jets, we'll start there. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. Depth. Some solid defense from Darnell Nurse. You got guys like Ethan Bear playing well. The question mark for the Oilers, can Mike Smith carry that team like he did with the Arizona Coyotes? The Oilers are going to score goals. Can they keep the puck out of their own net?
I'm actually kind of the opposite on that one, where the one name I'm looking at is Connor Hellebuyck. I think he's the one that needs to steal the series for them, because he's been masking a lot of their troubles on the back end for a while. And if he doesn't play out of his mind, their mistakes on defense are exposed. And they have been lately. And they've won, 2 or 3 games in the last month. And a big part of that was Hellebuyck's numbers have completely crashed. And you see how much the team is relying on him. And when you're going up against 2 names, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, you have to be playing out of your absolute mind. And I just don't know if he has it in him. I think it'll be a tough series. I don't see it going as long as everybody else does. I think Oilers take this one pretty handedly.
And now, Katie, we get into the Maple Leafs versus the Canadiens. The first time these two teams are playing in the playoffs since 1979. I don't think that's attributed to Montreal. I think that's more of a problem in Leafland. Better part of awful for the last 2 decades. But now we're starting to see things turn around. You have Frederik Andersen coming back. He's healthy. He didn't lead the league in minutes this year. You have Jack Campbell, who's hot. Jack Campbell went 4-1-1 against the Canadiens this year, posting a .918 save percentage, and you get your starting goalie back. I think you have a 1A, 1B again like Vegas. I don't even know if you have a clear-cut starting goalie going into that series.
No, it's so clear to me. It's obviously Jack Campbell.
Really?
There's no question.
See, I think a lot of people are now leaning towards Jack Campbell, especially seeing Frederik Andersen give up those goals last night to Ottawa. Going into the playoffs, you can't be losing a game to the Ottawa Senators like that. I know Mitch Marner gave away the puck multiple times, but you cannot be losing a game with who is supposed to be your 1A. Goalie in the pipes, making his comeback. That was supposed to be a confidence builder for Freddie Andersen. He was supposed to go out there feeling great about himself and coming into the playoffs on a high, and he's not going to be. But then you do, as you said, you have the positive smile in Jack Campbell, who's 4-1-1 against Montreal this year. It's not a bad combo for Leafland. And we haven't even mentioned the scoring. The Toronto Maple Leafs, combined just 185 goals for this season as a team. Casual. I don't see how Montreal can stop them outside of one man, and his name's Carey Price. If Carey Price can get, because of Montreal's style, Montreal went out and they built a team that can beat Toronto in the past. They built a team like the Boston Bruins when they were beating the Leafs in the postseason. They're big, Tyler Toffoli, they're mean, they got grit, they got goal scoring. If they can keep these games with the puck in the corner, make it a physical game, chip the puck, get it deep, cycle it to the point, and Carey Price makes a bunch of saves, the Canadiens can steal a game or 2 here.
They don't have a choice but to. There's no excuses this year. The team is stacked. They can make plays, they can score. The core's been together long enough. They've been through adversity. They haven't made it out of a playoff series, and they know they have to. They know they have no choice but to. And I get a sense that no Leafs fan is comfortable right now.
It's that daunting task of going into the playoffs, and it started back in 2013 when they blew Game 7. And it's been going on now for almost a decade. Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't leave the back of your head. But adding depth definitely helps. You were talking about that up front, the core.
If the fans are feeling that way, you best believe that is in that building. You know that members of that franchise are feeling the same way if the fans are feeling that way.
For sure, but I think what could be a huge play is the depth moves. The Leafs, for the first time, they actually have a bottom 6 where players are competing. They went out and got Foligno, who could be a top 6 guy too. Wayne Simmons going to grind the body. Couple guys that are going to be huge cogs in this series, and if they're not going, it's going to be the next guy up because they're going to be playing for minutes. That's the difference with this Maple Leaf team this year and why I think they can take that extra step.
I get it all this on paper. That's why I said there's no excuses for this not to work. There's no key pieces you're missing anymore. You have
depth. You have depth.
You have the depth.
You have your defense. You have your 2 goalies.
You have all of it. But you're going up against Carey Price. They're getting key pieces back. Shea Weber, Brendan Gallagher, Philip Deneau. One guy I'm looking at that I think the series is really going to hinge on is Nick Suzuki, because I don't love Montreal's depth at center. But he was good in the bubble. He just has to be electric. But he's smart. He's playing confident. He just needs to be solid defensively. I don't trust their center depth a lot after that. But someone like Nick Suzuki, a ton of pressure, but This is why we love the playoffs. This is where we see unexpected people come out and totally shine. So if you have guys like Tyler Foley lighting it up, you get in work from Nick Suzuki, you get a bit of help on defense, and Carey Price lights you up. Plus, you're in your head going, we don't have a choice but to win this series. Toronto has the most amount of pressure of, I think, any team in the league.
I would agree with that 100%.
Who would have more pressure?
There could not be a team with more pressure. There really couldn't. Especially with the fact, as you said, they have the depth. And Frederik Andersen coming back, I think that even adds more pressure instead of relieving it.
Yeah.
Well, he is fresh. Fans, the media, you know the media in Toronto. You worked with TSN. You've been in Toronto. It is something else when the media gets a hold of it. But I am going to take the Leafs. I think it's going to be a much tighter series than people think because of what you said, Montreal being that gritty team. I do think down the middle of the ice, as you said, there's a big void there for the Canadiens, and I think that's where the Leafs can really take advantage. Winning faceoffs, time of possession, but they're going to need to keep the puck, and they're going to need to be smart. It's going to be interesting, but I am taking the Maple Leafs. Katie, who are you taking?
I'm taking the Leafs, but I feel so uncomfortable doing that. But
There's an asterisk above it.
There's an asterisk of, I don't think it's going to be an easy walk like people think it will be, and I think a big part of it is just the mental game. And Connor, this season is just so unique in so many different ways where even if Toronto does get out of that division, we don't know how good the Canadian division is. We don't know how good the West is or the East because of these really insane circumstances where they haven't played a game against anyone else. I'm just so excited to see all of these things that we just have no way of knowing yet.
I totally agree. I think it's going to be an awesome playoff series. Katie, you're more than welcome to come back to the show in a couple weeks. After the divisional rounds are done, and we'll break down the top 4 teams going at it in the semifinal and the Stanley Cup. Everyone, you can follow Katie. You can see her Twitter handle on the bottom of the screen. That's the correct spelling of her name. Don't get it wrong. Katie, thank you so much for joining us today on Trees 3.
I will be back. Don't threaten me with a good time. Thanks for having me.
Coming in at number 2 this week on Trees 3 is the AT&T Byron Nelson from TPC Craig Ranch. Our pick from this week's Monday Morning Wrap show, Jordan Spieth is tied for the co-lead. He first played this tournament when he was 16, and the guy loves his home cooking in Texas. Spieth shares the lead with JJ Spawn at 9 under par. Fellow Dallas native Scotty Scheffler, one of our other picks, is within striking distance, sitting at 5 under. And our third and final pick, who also happens to be from Texas, is Will Zalatoris, and he is 2 under par. He's got some work to do if he wants to avoid missing his second straight cut. This is the lowest combined opening round from the field of golfers at the Byron Nelson since the 1970s. And if you want a dark horse heading into the weekend, look no further than the Spaniard, Sergio Garcia. Garcia entered the tournament tied for the 7th most eagles on tour and has the 2nd best eagle per hole ratio on tour behind Bryson DeChambeau. He also dropped an eagle today, so if Sergio can keep giving himself eagle looks, he should make a solid push through the weekend. Coming in at number 1 this week on Trees 3 is UFC 262. On Saturday night, the UFC will officially begin a new era as the title reign of Khabib Nurmagomedov is officially laid to rest. Either Michael Chandler or Charles Oliveira will be crowned the new lightweight king. In typical Trees 3 fashion, we're going to give you our 3 favorite fights to look out for from the main card and give you a little bonus play from the prelims. And we're going to get it all started on the prelims with some ladies. It's Andrea Lee versus Antonia Shevchenko. Both of these ladies are tough customers, and neither of them have ever been stopped inside the UFC's octagon. Antonia Shevchenko has a pure striking background. In 2 fights that she's lost in the UFC, she was taken down a combined 8 times. Andrea Lee, on the other hand, has landed at least 97 strikes in back-to-back fights, so if Lee decides to keep this on the feet, it should be fireworks. Shevchenko, however, is more of a technician. I'd like her to win this fight based on her precision and timing. The first fight that we're going to look at on the main card is between Edson Barboza and Shane Burgos. Edson Barboza is one of the most exciting strikers in UFC history, and he's gone the distance in 3 consecutive fights. He owns wins over the likes of Beneil Dariush, Dan Hooker, Paul Felder, and former champion Anthony Pettis. He's landed at least 60 strikes in 2 out of his last 3 fights, and has outstruck his opponents in all 3. Burgos has landed at least 105 strikes in 3 straight fights, all 3 of them going into the 3rd round, so this is going to be another staggering battle between talented strikers. I'm going to have to take the underdog Edson Barboza. He simply has the experience against against the top fighters in the world, and I like him to win this fight and put on a show. Next up, it's Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Darius, and Tony Ferguson has landed at least 100 strikes in 3 out of his last 4 fights, so that should answer any questions for the people that think he's done. The only time he didn't land those strikes was his last time out against Charles Oliveira, who took him down 3 times. Now that Ferguson has straightened out his coaching situation, he's ready to get back to his viciously violent ways. Beneil Darius has collected 6 consecutive victories inside the octagon, outstriking his opponents in 5 out of those 6 fights. Over that 6-fight stretch, Darius has secured 13 takedowns. Well, that might seem like an obvious path to victory based on how Charles Oliveira was able to take down Tony Ferguson. Outside of that one fight with Charles Oliveira, Tony Ferguson has beaten all 6 of the guys that have taken him down in the UFC and finished 4 of them. He is an absolute scrapper, and I like Tony Ferguson to get his name back in the win column. The main event sees Iron Mike Chandler take on Charles Oliveira. Oliveira is an elite grappler, and he's also knocked out some inferior opponents on the feet. But his only win in the premier crop of 155 was over at out-of-form Tony Ferguson, who is in the midst of a coaching change, and that went to a decision. He couldn't submit Ferguson on 3 separate submission attempts. Michael Chandler is one of the best wrestlers in the division and is fighting world-class talent for the better part of 5 years, and he's never been submitted. Oliveira against top-notch caliber opponents has been knocked out by Don Cerrone in the first round, knocked out by Cub Swanson in the first round, knocked out by Max Holloway in the first round, submitted by Anthony Pettis, submitted by Ricardo Lamas, knocked out by Paul Felder, and dominated in wrestling via Frankie Edgar. Chandler is a physically stronger wrestler than Frankie Edgar, and like the other names on that list I just mentioned, he puts people's lights out. His last 3 victories have come by way of knockout, and he's finished 4 out of his last 5 wins. Chandler's been making a living off knocking guys out like Charles Oliveira for over a decade. He has all the tools to cement his legacy as one of the best fighters in the world on Saturday night, and I think he'll do it. Take Iron Michael Chandler. For a trivia question on this week's edition of Trees 3, because we put in a special playoff preview show for you, we're going to keep this question on the NHL ice. Who's the only player to win an NHL MVP award in the 1980s other than Wayne Gretzky? Make sure you head over to our web app right now and either sign up or subscribe. And remember, an upgrade in your subscription is an upgrade to win up to $15,000 a year and tickets to see your favorite teams play live. Folks, I'm Connor Roundtree. Thank you so much for joining this week's edition of Trees 3. Cheers, you've made it to the weekend.
3, 2, 1.